Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to today's conversation. I'm Sarah Jane. My co-host is Enolia. Hi, Enolia.
Hello, everyone. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty here, but I am here.
Excellent. Thank you, Enolia. And we're delighted to welcome our guest, Sarah Chave, who's joined us this evening. And our topic, Sarah's choice, is creating a new earth, a new life. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us for this program.
Thank you both so much for having me on the show this evening. I'm really delighted to be here.
Excellent. Sarah, to introduce yourself, just share a little about yourself and why this subject, because we obviously always ask our guests to choose the topic, why this is so important to you.
Well, I'm an energy medicine practitioner. I've been working with energy medicine for about 20 years. And my husband is a gardener. He was managing in the UK large private estates. And we'd talked for many years about rather than him working, me working, and him basically managing our own land, us getting a very big plot of land and him managing it. And we'd ummed and ahed with it. And then in 2020, with all the COVID and everything, basically I ended up taking all my business online. And it was the nudge from the universe, that we could move overseas and start a new life and explore what we've been thinking about for a long time. So we literally put our house on the market. We sold it the end of October 2020. And within about a week, we hadn't even sold it, we'd had an offer. And within about a week, there was travel restrictions, so we had to pack up our house in 3 days to get on a ferry to Portugal. So it was the start of a real adventure for us that's continued since.
Amazing. And so you've got your land, you've got your property, and he's now managing the land, giving you this new life, creating a new earth, a sustainable way of living.
Yes, we toured around Portugal for a good 6 months looking around, and we found a beautiful area in central Portugal where a lot of like-minded people had moved to this area to go off-grid, set themselves up to grow their own vegetables, and looking at exploring new ways of being with each other and with nature. And in some ways kind of going backwards, in terms of reinstating those traditional values of community and things that have got lost, but also exploring new possibilities as well.
Enolia, thoughts on this? The more people that do this, the better, but we've obviously still got this world to live in.
I think what you're saying is just so invaluable, in the respect that there are so many people that do not have a relationship with the earth. And to have a relationship with the earth is to understand how the earth nurtures you and nourishes you. We can't live without her. And, having traversed the world and learning and living with so many different cultures, yes, it may seem like you're going backwards a little bit from the conveniences of life. But on the same token, I think about all of the people who basically say that in order to sustain myself, I go to the grocery store, and that's all I know. And because they don't have a relationship, because they don't understand beyond what they see at face value, there's something lost there.
Yes, and it's really interesting what you said about going to the grocery store, because one of the things that we've been working as a community together to do is to set up our own food supply, because there's talk of supply chain issues with all the things that are going on in the world. So we've been contacting local producers and making direct contact with people. And we started a local cooperative called the Food Larder, so that we can be very much, you know, between us in control, because obviously we're growing our own food, but a lot of us have only just arrived here. So it's, you know, it was still very much in the process of setting up, renovating, building. I mean, we've just built a chicken house. We've literally got the chickens in now, which is really exciting. So it's quite a journey, and it takes time to set yourself up self-sufficiently. So whilst we're on that journey, having good connections with local growers is very important.
And obviously the sustainable side of things, being able to, as much as possible, grow your own, live off grid, sort of solar panels, all those type of things. But it's also about our connection, isn't it, with ourselves and with each other. So Enolia, we lost you. You broke up really badly, and now your video, great. It's so funny because you're sideways on, but sort of, oh, she's gone. So yeah, Sarah, in respect of it isn't just about the feeding ourselves. It's the nourishment of way more than that within our lives.
Yes, and I think it's like the food side of things. I think that's a journey as well, because we've all lived in such a fast-paced world that, you know, you arrive in rural Portugal and it is a slowing down. It was quite interesting. As a family, we went back to somewhere we used to visit when we were in the UK, and we always used to go there in southern Spain for the peace and quiet. And we went recently, and we're like, it's so busy here, you know, and it's kind of, and then you realize how much you've slowed down and how much it is very different kind of connections here. And I'm very much exploring this as well, looking at how I can fulfill a role for people of supporting people through these transitions, because I've got the background in energy medicine. So really looking at, you know, how I can help people to shift out of old ways into new, not just in terms of, like you say, growing food or whatever, but in terms of consciousness shifts and shifts in our heart and our beingness of how we're relating to each other and how we're relating to the earth.
Yeah. Enolia, your thoughts while we've got you.
I think that's phenomenal. And I would love Sarah to share with us just a little bit more about how she leverages the energy medicine with that relationship with the earth.
Well, I actually started, I had this download. It was somewhere earlier on in the year, and I got told to start a group called Creating New Earth. And it was really interesting, because what was happening for me is I was sort of saying back to the divine or the universe, oh yeah, I will, but not yet. I'm not ready yet. I'll do it later. And then I heard almost this stern voice of, you're not meant to be ready. You need to do it now. Because I think the journey that we're all on is letting go of old to embrace the new. And we can't wait for the new to be there before we start doing it. We have to sit in that unknown place. And I'm sitting in that as well, of that kind of co-creative process that's not yet formed. So I'm doing physical building and, you know, the energetic building as well. So in the group, we work together to support each other, to look at new ways of being. And that's been an incredible journey for us all.
Enolia, because I know you've worked a lot with Indigenous, haven't you? Indigenous peoples.
So, you know, it's really beautiful to see this, because there is no separation between how we are and the shift in our consciousness and our relationship to the earth. The bottom line is that the more that we shift in consciousness, the closer we come to the earth, the closer that we come to everything. Because what we don't appreciate is that everything is energy. Okay, everything is energy. So that symbiotic relationship that you have with everything around you just means that you've arrived. You stop seeing things as material or objects, and that you finally arrived at seeing things equal in value and equal in makeup and equal in just in everything. you know, and then once you can appreciate that, there's a flow, and then there's an alignment, and there's an understanding of how everything should be, and you can't describe it. You really can't describe it fully. So it's beautiful to see how that relationship and flow manifests itself, and your gift being that earth, and just how you choose to engage it is just so beautiful. So that's just my thoughts, you know.
Yeah, it's a beautiful journey, that journey into alignment with self, others, the universe, you know, and it's very interesting, you know, the synchronicities that happen when we step into that. It's just so beautiful. I have a lot of connection. We put our house on the market in 2018, and our plans got delayed. Originally, we were heading for New Zealand, where I lived for a decade, and I have a lot of connection with Polynesian people and Maori people there. I feel like New Zealand's my spiritual home, actually, and New Zealand is the first light of the world. So it feels to me like part of the work that I'm doing is, you know, in this group, we've got people from all over the world, and it feels very much anchoring in new energies, new vibrations into different locations, almost like it's working with the grid lines of the earth. And we actually had recently an Aboriginal didgeridoo player arrive, and he's been working a lot with the song lines in this area, which has been really beautiful, because I can feel that the energy is really shifting here.
And that's sound energy for you, isn't it? Sound is it, because we are a vibration. Sound is a vibration. Everything that is out of sync within our bodies, within our lives, within our world can be put back into sync with the vibration of the right sound. But yes, but there's still an awful lot of sounds out there that are very good at disrupting our vibration. And Indigenous peoples use an awful lot of sound, don't they, Enolia?
Yes, they do. And a matter of fact, there's no separation from sound and being, period. I mean, I think the United States is one of the few cultures that if somebody's singing out loud, others will go, will you please stop? Because everywhere else in the world where I traverse, when people sing, people will be singing full voice down the road by themselves, and no one thinks anything of it, because that person is enjoying their vibration, and that's how they choose to express themselves. All are tolerant of it, and all either join in and embrace it, or then end up being inspired with their own songs. And everywhere that I've traversed in different cultures, people sing. And it's very few cultures where they basically go, can you please stop? And that really leads me to something that you said. Do you want to share a little bit more about the Aboriginal and the song lines? Because I understand what you meant by that, but I don't think that many may have understood what you meant. And I know that you have to share a little bit about the Aboriginal people in order to share. So will you do that for us?
Yeah, I mean, I personally more connected with, I lived in New Zealand, so I was more connected with Polynesian Maori people. There's a lot of Polynesian people in New Zealand, but the man that's come here has been talking a lot about what he's doing, and he talks about becoming the song, which, you know, is interesting in relation to what you were talking about with the singing. He talks about how the Aboriginal people, it's the way they find water. It's the way they find everything. They sing everything up. So it's kind of like they know. I know there's a lot of trackers in Aboriginal trackers, and it's the way they find things is by the vibrations. And I think that has to do with the song lines, and water will have a certain vibration and different things like that. So. Yeah, it's really beautiful, and that kind of connection and honouring, you know, that ultimately makes us more connected, and also it's very empowering, you know, because it's about survival. You know, we're able to navigate on a different kind of level than, you know, what we mentioned earlier about, you know, going to the grocery store and that's it kind of thing. It's a different kind of connection. So
Absolutely. And one thing I just would love to ask you, because you mentioned the Maori and how the Polynesian people, the Maori people, and I know song is a very important role in their culture. I'm not familiar with the Maori as much as I'm familiar with the Waitaha, which is also on New Zealand, and song is everything to them. You sing to enter into the presence of the chief. You sing to engage anything. You sing before you're able to speak. Everything is about song. So how does song play in that part of the Maori culture also that you are familiar with?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's very much the same. You know, it's very, very present and almost you know, poetic, the way that they speak, and you know, even speech is a song, which is also very beautiful. But actually, my personal understanding is much more about the art, because I'm a therapist now, but in my 20s I was an artist. That was my background, and I travelled to New Zealand to join the Maori and Polynesian art department called Te Toi Ho in Auckland University. They had a section that was so. I'm much more knowledgeable about the art, actually, because that was my background, but I think that's the thing. It's the aliveness, the creativity that comes. You know, it's like, I think in our world, it's all trying to, you know, it's all this stuff is trying to be stamped out, or if it is, it's become much more commercial. Where it's that heart-based spiritual, you know, it's always got that heart-based spiritual connection, which is one of the things that I was really drawn to, because I'd been working as an artist in London, and it was a time when Damien Hirst, you know, and kind of art was a product, and I had moved away from the reasons that I'd wanted to do, which was much more about expression and spirituality. And I found by going back to New Zealand, that all became alive for me, and much more, you know, a richness that I'd never experienced, even, you know, when I was just following my own sort of creativity when I was younger.
And it is about creativity, isn't it? We are here, we are creative beings, but you just have to do something that somebody doesn't like as a child, and you're no good at it. And for so many, their creativity is almost squashed out of them. You know, a child that enjoys singing and then told, stop that racket. You know, apparently I used to start a song and then I would keep going, and if somebody interrupted me, I'd start all over again. And apparently I used to just sing. And it wasn't any known song. It was just obviously what came out of me. And that is, and our creativity is what can support us to reconnect to ourselves, to reconnect to Earth, to find new ways or adapt back to the old ways of living, of doing things. Because my grandmother, during the war, she sort of kept chickens. So because she kept chickens, they had no egg ration. And she was a great gardener. So she always grew fruit and veg. I mean, I never knew her having chickens, but definitely when my mother was a child, absolutely they did. And my grandmother hated foxes because a fox had got into the hen house one day. And that was the end of their, no chicken and no eggs. You couldn't just go suddenly on the ration. But it's learning to live with nature. It's learning all of that and adapting. And a lot of that is about creativity, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, sometimes here we feel like we're reinventing the wheel, because there's a journey that you have to go through. You know, there's a lot that needs to be put in place to become self-sufficient, and we all, you know, it would be, we need to get more organized and share knowledge, because, you know, it's, at the moment for a lot of us, it's a creative process, because all those things that you perhaps would have gone to the builder for, or, you know, you end up finding yourself doing a lot more. So, and, you know, often quite creatively. So that's on a physical level again, but I'm finding with the consciousness work that I'm doing, a lot of it is about letting go of that old conditioning that we've been brought up with, which is that quite patriarchal world, which is more left-brained, more logical, and what we're actually moving into, what the Creating New Earth is about, is coming more into the divine feminine and allowing the divine feminine to come out of, it's been suppressed for a long time. So you know, the divine feminine relates much more to the right brain, which incorporates the creativity. You know, that's a part of the right hemisphere of the brain. So by, you know, allowing that creativity, coming into our own sovereignty, and allowing that creativity to arise in us and through us, it's actually a shift in, it's part of the shift in ages, as it were. It's part of the shift in era, away from that patriarchal old way of being that was much more logical and compartmentalized and that kind of thing.
But I think it's also, you know, yes, the feminine energies, the creative energies, but, you know, where women had become, well, we've got to compete with men, and now we're saying, actually, we've got to stop competing and we've got to be truer to our feminine side. But it's also about encouraging the men to connect with their feminine side, to be able not to be this big boys don't cry, this tough, because they're still human beings. They still have feelings, and they still have ability that they probably haven't been able to tap into because of the conditioning of the worlds that we've lived in for so many generations, unfortunately.
Well, that's the thing, and we all have aspects of masculine and feminine within us, as is represented by the left and right hemisphere of the brain. So it's about honoring that in men and women, you know, and it's about actually the reason that we're needing to focus more on the divine, on the feminine, is because it's been suppressed. But that's not to say that it's better than or more important than. We actually need both in balance. It's just we don't really know so much what the feminine is, because we've always done things more from a masculine perspective. So it's a real journey, and part of the work that I'm doing, it's really allowing that to unfold by sitting in the unknown, and allowing, you know, part of the guidance I was given was when I started my group, was that there was no topic, that there was nothing solid to work with, that I needed to kind of surrender and see what unfolds. And it's been a very beautiful process that's, you know, rather than some of the shifts, consciousness shifts that we've made, things like, rather than me standing at the front as a teacher, it's much more about a collaborative effort. And collaboration is something that's very important in the New Earth. Another shift that we've made as a group is that that's basically happening also within the healing session. So we have a discussion that's very sort of democratic and collaborative in its approach, but then we also have the healing session, and basically rather than me, you know, doing a healing or facilitating a healing or holding space for healing to happen, even, which is obviously I don't believe I'm doing the healing anyway. I feel that people have the innate ability to heal within them, and I'm facilitating that. But still, if I'm the healer, if I'm the, you know, there's still like this kind of relationship that, so what we're working with is that we're all equal within that process, and wherever that's guided to go next, that person will add to that process. And what's been really beautiful is that there's some people in the group who have come just because they've been drawn to it, and they're not from a background of therapy. And when we've been going to them, their contribution has been so profound and so beautiful. And it's really highlighting the fact that we're all healers. If we let that innate intelligence flow through us, we've all got the innate ability to heal, which is something that, is really coming alive in my group as well.
And it is about being heart-centered. It is about connecting with self. It is about listening to that intuition, that gut instinct, that inspiration that comes to us. Because for me, that is always, sort of your heart is your connection to your soul. And therefore, anything that comes through your heart is coming from that higher aspect of self. And unfortunately, I don't think the majority of us have been taught that it's okay to love yourself, to consider yourself. You can't pour from an empty pot. If you are so exhausted and so shattered, you can't do any more for people. But you're not, none of us, like the workshop you're doing, none of us are here to do for other people.
That's right.
We are here to work together, to support each other, and we are here to be ourselves. And in that being, sometimes we have to do to be that being, but that doing is about living life, experiencing life, and learning from our experiences and growing from those.
Well, that's the integration of masculine and feminine again, because the doing is more masculine, and that's what we've been brought up with. This kind of do more, work harder, buy more, fill all the spaces, buy everything up kind of idea. And the being is more feminine. So, we like with the other aspects we've discussed, we need to swing more to the feminine, simply not because it's better, but because we've been on this other end of the pendulum for so long. We need to swim more, but ultimately we need to find somewhere in the middle where we can busily be doing, but the beingness is incorporated. And for me, that's very much about finding your bliss, finding your passion, because then that 0 point field energy, that state of being in the zone, just comes in naturally. That fusion of left and right hemisphere of the brain, when that happens, we're in the zone. And you see it in Formula One drivers and things like that they're just in another kind of dimension. And I feel that's very much the journey we're on as well as a collective, is making those kind of shifts in consciousness.
So it's really great that we're sharing about exactly what it feels like and everything. So I'm sitting here listening and I'm thinking that there's a great many people who they hear us, but they don't understand where to begin. And so I just want to just throw out there, the question would be, how would that person who's looking to go on this journey, where do they begin in your mind for this new earth?
Before you answer that, Sarah, hello, disembodied voice. We can't see you, Enolia. We didn't even know you were still here. But
I've been listening the whole time. I'm here.
I've been sitting there quietly for a long time, wondering why we're not involving you.
I'm here. I'm listening. I didn't want to over.
Oh, bless you. No, we didn't know you were there. So
heard every word.
Oh, bless you. So so you'll just have to jump in, because we can't see you. We're not going to.
Okay.
You'll just have to
I'm
jump
here.
in. We'll invite you to talk. So what I'm feeling is that this is a time of beginning and endings, and we're right in the middle of that. So there's a lot of grief, and I'm supporting people with a lot of grief. And another of the, I don't mean to keep talking about my classes, but it's just it's the easiest way for me to explain what we're going through. Another class I'm doing is healing the ancestral lines. And this is the backward looking aspect. So what I'm finding is that whilst we're in this group, whilst we're setting the intention to move into these new spaces, we end up sometimes needing to go back and revisit. So I think a lot of it for people is being able to sit with that unknown, because we are very much, I've experienced a lot of grief in my life. I had a lot of loss in my younger years. I lost my fiance and my baby in my 20s very traumatically and suddenly. And I remember someone saying to me, you need to get comfortable in that uncomfortable place. And it was one of the most profound things that someone said to me. It's something that stayed with me. And I think in a way, that's what we're doing now as a collective. It's kind of a little bit of a dark night of the soul, where all those things that we've known all our life, like even in the UK, the Queen dying, you know, that the Queen's been there my whole life. And, you know, all those things are going, you know, all those old structures are changing, you know, and it's almost like as a collective, we've jumped off the edge of a cliff. So it's kind of like, how do we get comfortable in that place? How do we sit with that unknown? Because I think in creating space for that, there's a possibility for new possibilities and opportunities to come in. And I think a lot of that is letting go of expectations, because we've always perhaps done things a certain way. And so this enables us to then, you know, because things are changing and they're not necessarily going to be the same way, and we're not necessarily living in the same world. If we let go of the expectations, we're then open to new possibilities. So I liken it really, that grieving process is almost like you can, when it boils down to it, you can bring it right back to the breath. So with every out breath, there's a letting go, which is like the grieving process, a real releasing, trusting, letting go fully with the trust that the new breath will come. And with the new breath, there's the opportunity for fresh new energy, potential, chi to come in. So I feel that's very much what we're working with as a collective. So in a way, a good place to start is with the breath, or with just being able to sit. If something falls away or if something shifts that's uncomfortable, just sitting with it to see what arises.
Beautiful, thank you.
Enolia, have you got any comments that you'd like to share to do with this?
I think that you're right on par, Sarah, because that breath really just shifts all of the craziness that's going on outside and helps you focus inward. And once you have that ability to focus inward and can sit with it and just sit with self and just be, then what you're doing is you're affording that opportunity of that connection to be. And when that connection is, then you're getting, you can get informed. Then trusting that in sitting in this space and just being, that what comes to you is of value and of significance. And then traversing this environment for the first period of time, for the first time, is so important. And to grasp onto that experience and seek it and expand it each and every time. And then things can actually unveil organically. And so I think that's right on par, and I absolutely love that.
A thought while you were speaking, and you were talking about the breath, but before you were talking about singing. So what do you do when you sing? You take a beautiful deep breath in, and then you're letting energy go with that song, with that out breath. And Enolia, when we've done the light language, And we've not just done it with words, we've done it with song.
Yes.
It's that energy of the in-breath and the out-breath, the energy of expression, whether the words are understood or whether they are just felt. It's all about thinking, being open to thinking about some of the everyday things differently, and opening up to new ways of viewing things and living with them, and being able to let go of those things that really just don't serve a purpose anymore.
I went to an interesting talk last night about freedom, and it was very interesting. You know, there was quite a large group, and you know, people were talking about their different experiences, and some people were, you know, feeling so restricted by everything that's going on, and others were very much feeling like freedom is a state of mind, and you know, feeling more free than ever because of this. You know, what we're going through at the moment is awakening so much. So that was a very interesting discussion. There was something I was going to talk about in it, and I've forgotten what it is. So maybe maybe we can talk a little bit about freedom, because that is I think that's a really interesting thing. There was something you said, Sarah, that around shifting perspectives or something that I thought was very interesting. You know, it just reminded me of what we've been talking about last night.
Well, let's take that a little bit deeper. So I'm listening to Sara Jane and I'm going, not only is there that connection with the breath and the thought and the song, because the song can open up a vortex. The song is the vibration. The song is the light codes. The song is the ripple effect of those sacred geometries that traverse the universe and expand and allows us that freeing expansion and feeling that we have within, because we're multidimensional beings. So that song, that harmony, that vibration, that alignment is like singing or saying, here's my tone to the universe to align with who I am and where I fit in it. Does that make sense?
That's beautiful. I really love that I love that approach. And in a way, I think, you know, last night it was interesting, you know, with the word freedom, the different tones that brings up, and I think that's very much a part of the journey we're on at the moment. It's the energy we're in at the moment. We've just had the equinox, which is the movement into darkness, and we've also had a new moon in Libra on Sunday. And this, what we're experiencing at the moment is that we're on the pivot. I mean, Libra is all about balance. We're on the pivot of scales, and in those scales are opposite viewpoints. So for me, part of the creating new earth is about that staying in alignment with ourselves and our own truth and our own sovereignty, but at the same time having respect for all those different ideas and beliefs, because we're living in a very polarized world at the moment, and ultimately that's going to shift, and we're going to come into unity consciousness. But it's staying in that heart connection, that vibration, and that you know, the song gives us the potential to do that. It gives us that alignment, that truth, because it flows through us, and certainly, you know, that's the place that I wish to come from as much as possible. I mean, one of the things that's happened in my own life, you know, when I spoke about the change that I had away from art into therapy, how that came about was the day that my fiance drowned. I stood on the beach in New Zealand, and which was a very sacred Maori place. And sorry, I have to slow down just to honor that. And I heard angels, I heard music. It was an incredible spiritual experience for me. that stays with me to this day. It was very profound, and I felt very, very connected with the place and with the Maori people, and the connection with the lands there. So that was on a spiritual level, but on a human level, I stood there absolutely devastated and traumatized. So my journey has been very much to bridge that gap between the spiritual experience I had that day and the human experience. So I've worked to kind of bring that into more and more alignment, so that I can bring more and more of the divine through in each moment. And obviously that's still a journey. It's still, you know, I'm a lot more able to do that than I was on the beach that day. But you know, it's a journey still. And I think that for me, you asked me about the Aboriginal connection with song and song lines. For me, the song lines flows through us and through the earth. It's not an external, it's also internal. And it's that connection that's very, very powerful.
I think that's so beautiful. And when I think about the song lines too, if we're talking about just the views of that song line, so that song line is that internal vibration, and that internal vibration echoes out from us. And it is where it encounters other energies that it would ever be disturbed or change your focus. And if you think about that, just like, I guess in cybernetics, if your finger was in the middle of something shaking, then it would be able to tell that it hit a physical body, or it hit a physical plane, you know? So if we think about it, we are that song line, absolutely, each and every one of us. And if we just really allowed that energy to always be, I don't know, exhibited in that manner, we would understand everything, the energy of everything, you know? I understand what you're saying about New Zealand, and, you know, I'm just going to make this side comment. Like, I spent a lot of time in the North Island, and, you know, there is something about the land of New Zealand. There's something about the land of New Zealand that just, it raises your vibration so high, just being there. You know, let alone encountering and going to the sacred spaces where it amplifies and is even more. The beaches are the most beautiful that I've ever seen anywhere. There's something, and especially at the tip of the North Island, where the Pacific and the Indian Ocean come together. I believe that's the right oceans. The Indian.
And that's the place that Maori believe that the spirits, when they pass, they go.
They go to the portal.
Yeah, there's a portal there. I also spent a lot of time in the North Island for a decade in around Auckland, and also the Coromandel Peninsula, and it's definitely my spiritual home. And it's interesting because we that's really where we were headed. But I've got 2 children, and you know, with the quarantine camps and everything that were happening at the time, we just couldn't do that. But I do feel it's all as it's meant to be, because Portugal is an incredibly beautiful place. They lived through a dictatorship here that was only you know, quite recently really ended. So they have this wisdom, the people here, of you know, it's very interesting because we've come, you know, as expats to, you know, connect with the land and become self-sufficient. But all the local people have been doing this their whole life. They know how to survive with very little, and you know, they work the land, and we've got much to learn from the native people here in Portugal. You know, I do feel I'm in the right place, and for me, it's part of the New Earth energy. It's about where you were drawn to and where you're drawn to. And we couldn't make it to New Zealand. We were drawn there, but the next place we were drawn to was Portugal. And then that narrowed down to this particular area. And the people that, you know, I felt that I'd found my tribe, but then the people that are arriving, it's like, oh my goodness, you know, people are still arriving, pouring in, and I've never felt so at home. You know, it's a real sense of a tribe forming, which is, and I do feel that that's what's happening on this planet at the moment. There's this synchronicity of the vibration that we're holding. We're sending that out, and it's attracting like-minded. And that's very much so. Enolia, going back to your question earlier about how people start with this journey, it's about, you know, following your heart to where you're drawn to, what you're drawn to in terms of your work, everything. Because, you know, the old model would have been to work to make money, where now it's that following the heart, following your bliss, that's the way that's of the new earth.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And by the way, I'm right across the ocean from you in Angola. Okay, Portuguese speaking country, settled by the Portuguese.
What I'd like to do is I'd like to come in with a couple of comments here, talking about our song and sort of the energy. And of course, I work with sound, I work with the voice, I work with toning. And one of the most powerful things, and I do suggest to people they try it for themselves, is the song that is your own name. So using the sound for your name and creating, just because obviously sort of if you've got a one syllable name, so if you're just like the Jane, then it's Jane. But if you're Sarah, then it's Sarah. So it's two syllables. If you've got three syllables, four syllables, and you can make sound, and that's your sound because that's your name. And it can change from day to day or from week to week, or it can stay similar. And it's not a suggestion I'm making just for the sake of making it, because I tone my name every day. So this isn't something I'm saying, oh, try this, because I don't try it. I'm not one of these people who says, here, take my advice, I'm not using it. I do. It's about an honoring of self. And maybe if the simplest way to start, and if you're not comfortable with creating it as more of a tone and a song, then start by gently speaking it. You are asking nothing of yourself. All you are doing is saying, I acknowledge you. And hopefully you're saying, I love you. And that's really important, because the most important person to love you and acknowledge you is yourself. And when you have that for you, you can bring so much more to others. Part of the new age is that confidence in self, that you can support others to build that confidence in themselves. It is not now about us being individuals. It is about us being connected. And we can only be connected with others when we're connected to ourselves. And that actually, well, guys, how do you do this? Which brings me perfectly to the second point. We are in an age of technology where we can literally, as we are semi-proving in the program tonight, that we can connect with people all over the world. We are not restricted the way we used to be. There are advantages to the technology of today. England, Portugal, the United States, because that's where Enolia is at the moment. And I don't know whether we've still got Enolia with us.
Yes, I'm right here.
Again. Our connection, make connections, and every connection we make builds that grid, that strength. And it doesn't matter where we are. It doesn't matter if it's our neighbor right next door, or whether it's our neighbor halfway around the world.
Yeah, and we're building a crystalline grid within ourselves and within the earth, and that's then connecting us, and we're anchoring in the Creating New Earth group that I'm doing. We've got people from all over the world, and that seems to be very important, so that we can anchor in different locations, because that's exactly, we're making a beautiful circle, really, a circle of light and connection, and it's a beautiful journey.
And Enolia, you're hopefully you're still there.
Yes, I am.
Because I saw something on Facebook, I think it was Facebook, it must have been Facebook, about you being accepted into the circle of grandmothers.
Yes, I have been. I've been initiated by my grandmother, who is of the Anishinaabe nation, and she's Ojibwe, and grandmother Isabel Mwaski, who has initiated me. So now I am a grandmother, and I've been initiated into the circle, and I'm just very grateful and humbled, and it's a huge responsibility, because you are that person in the community that everyone will look to ask the questions or facilitate assistance or inspiration or work, whatever the case may be. You are available. And in a sense, this is what I've been doing anyway, all over the world. But now it's like the responsibility is there in the initiation also. So, yes.
And so it is about circles. It is about connection. It's about being a part of something bigger. It isn't about being an individual anymore.
It's true.
Yeah, we've made a shift from what can I get to what can I contribute, and it is that contribution, and everyone really finding what they're here for, what they have to contribute, because everyone has a purpose, has something they've come here for, particularly at this time. We've all come to help with this huge transition we're all going through, and contribute something profound, really, no matter what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We are coming towards the end of our program. So I know I wouldn't normally do it this way, but I am going to go to Enolia first, purely because she's that disembodied voice again. and I don't want to risk losing.
I'm here. Every word that you say is coming clearly here, and it's amazing that I'm not seeing or anything there, but I am here, and we're excited because we are going to have on our next show, which is October 12th, Leela Greeno, and she's going to be speaking to us about healing the body while healing from abuse. And so that is going to be prove to be a really deep and powerful conversation also, as many people encounter that daily, let alone just possibly in their lifetime. So yes, we're excited to have Leela come on.
Excellent. And Sarah, obviously, before we finish, is there anything that you can think of that we haven't touched on that you would like to share? And actually, I suppose I ought to try and find your website address so I can stick that up in the chat box.
Okay, I can say that as well. So my website is www.replenishzing.com. So it's like replenishing with a Z, replenishzing.com. And these two groups that I'm running are rolling groups. So we've got the Creating New Earth has been running since May 2022. And we have new people joining all the time. So if anyone feels drawn to join either that or the Ancestral Healing Group, then go to my website and get in contact. Or if you'd like to have a chat about anything that we discussed today, then just do reach out, because it's always lovely to hear from you. And if you're finding this video and it's kind of in a few years' time, then just do get in contact with me, because I'm always doing new things, and I work with individuals and in private sessions and groups. So whether you're wanting a private session with me or a group session, I'm always available. So thank you both so much for having me on the show this evening.
And I'm just going to say what a pleasure it was to have you on. We were so happy to have this beautiful conversation. And I wish you many, many blessings and the best for the future. And what a gift you are.
Oh, it's just been an absolute honour. Thank you so much. I've just loved speaking with you both, and I think these are very important topics for our time, you know, and supporting people, because I think you know, it's easy to kind of get lost because there's so much change. So I think, you know, probably my last words for everyone is hope, because, you know, I think with the potential of you know, all the difficulties we've been through the last 2 years, it's almost like washing away something so that something very beautiful can rise up. So I just encourage everyone to hold that hope and come into your truth and alignment with who you really are.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. And thank you so much for sharing with us, Sarah. It's been a real pleasure. Enolia, I know you've been, it looks like you've been dropping in and out, but you've been here. Thank you. And folks, thank you for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. I will make sure that Sarah's website is underneath the video. So if you're watching on YouTube, it's already up on Gift of Healing TV website, under today's conversation. Our guests, it's already there. You can connect with Sarah there as well. So please do check out, and I'll make sure that the information for myself and Enolia is there as well. So please check it out. If you want support, that's what we're here for. That is why we do these programs. Enolia, any final words before we go?
Listen to your heart. Dare to step into the path of your calling. You have one life to live. Hold that vision for yourself and traverse and walk to it. Don't put it off anymore. The time is now. And I'll leave you with that.
Thank you so much, folks. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Enolia.
Thank you. Have a great evening, morning.
Have a great evening. Amazing to connect with you guys. Many blessings. Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.